The human ship moved slowly through the dark, its engines quiet like it did not want to disturb the silence of space. Captain Elias Kane sat alone in the cockpit, eyes tired, hands steady. He had been traveling for months without seeing another living soul. That was normal for humans like him, humans who worked the edges of the galaxy, where hope was thin and help rarely came. Elias was not a soldier. He was not famous. He was only a carrier of supplies and forgotten messages, taking small jobs that larger fleets ignored. Humans were good at that. They went where others would not. As the ship passed through a dead star system, a warning light blinked. A signal. Weak, broken, almost impossible to hear. Elias frowned. Dead systems did not send signals. He should have ignored it. Most pilots did. Stopping meant danger, wasted fuel, and questions no one would answer later. But the sound was strange. It was not a machine call. It carried emotion. Elias adjusted the receiver. The signal grew clearer and his chest tightened. There were voices, 5 of them, overlapping, frightened, tired. The translator struggled, but one sentence came through clearly. "Please take us with you." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. That sentence had followed humans for centuries, spoken by dying colonies, whispered by lost children, begged by entire worlds erased by stronger powers. He changed course. The signal led him to a small, damaged station orbiting a red star. The structure was old and cracked, patched together from different metals. Power flickered like a dying heartbeat. No defense systems. No ships docked. Only silence. Elias docked carefully and stepped inside with a portable light and lowered weapon. The air was thin but breathable. The halls were empty until he reached the central chamber. That was where he saw them. 5 alien women stood close together near a failing power core. They were tall and slender, their skin marked with soft glowing lines that pulsed slowly like quiet stars. Their eyes were wide, filled with fear and exhaustion. Their clothing was worn, repaired many times by careful hands. They did not run. They did not attack. One of them stepped forward, her movements slow and respectful. Her voice shook, but she spoke clearly. "You are human," she said. Elias nodded once. Her eyes filled with tears that glimmered in the dim light. "We watched your kind leave dying worlds," she continued. "You are the only ones who do not look away." The others lowered their heads, as if ashamed to beg but too desperate to stay silent. "Our people are gone," another said softly. "Our planet was taken, our cities burned. We were told we were inefficient." Elias felt anger rise in his chest, sharp and old. Humans knew that word well. The first woman took another step closer. "We stayed behind to keep our memories alive," she said. "Songs, stories, names. If we die here, everything we were will vanish." Her hands trembled as she reached out, stopping herself before touching him. "Please take us with you," she whispered. "Anywhere, we will work. We will obey your laws. We just want to live." Elias looked at the 5 of them. His ship was small, his supplies limited. Taking them would change everything. It would put a target on his back. He thought of Earth, of how close humanity once came to being erased. He lowered his weapon. "You don't have to obey," he said quietly, "and you won't be cargo." The women stared at him, unsure. "If you come with me," Elias continued, "you come as people." The station shuddered as another system failed. Red lights flashed. Time was running out. The 5 women looked at each other, then back at the human who had stopped when he did not have to. Hope, fragile and shaking, began to rise. And for the first time in a long while, the darkness did not feel so empty. The human ship pulled away from the dying station just as its lights went dark forever. From the cockpit window, Elias watched the structure shrink into the distance, spinning slowly like a forgotten thought. He did not speak. Some endings deserved silence. Behind him, the 5 alien women stood together near the corridor wall. The ship was small, and everything felt too close, too human. The metal floor vibrated gently under their feet, a strange feeling compared to the smooth, living structures they once knew. They did not ask where they were going. For now, being away was enough. Elias showed them the basic parts of the ship, where to sit, where to sleep, how to use the water recycler. His words were calm, but his mind was loud. He kept counting supplies, food, air, time. Every number reminded him that saving lives always came with a price. Hours passed. Slowly, fear loosened its grip. The woman who had spoken first on the station approached him again. Her glowing markings were dimmer now, as if exhaustion was catching up with her. "My name cannot be spoken by your kind," she said gently, "but you may call me Lyra." Elias nodded. "I'm Elias." One by one, the others shared names Elias could understand: Sail, Naira, Vesh, and Orin. Each name carried meaning, though he did not yet know what. They gathered in the common area, sitting carefully like guests afraid to break something precious. The ship hummed around them, steady and warm. Lyra spoke again. "You should know why we were hunted." Elias leaned against the wall and listened. Their people had not been warriors. They were keepers of knowledge, balance, and memory. Their world held rare biological energy woven into the land itself. Powerful empires noticed. At first, they offered protection, then control, then removal. "They said we were too slow," Sale added quietly. "Too careful, they wanted faster minds, stronger bodies." Naira's voice shook. "They called us unnecessary." Elias felt his jaw tighten. Humans had been called many things by the galaxy, but that word always cut the deepest. "Our leaders refused to surrender who we were," Vesh continued. "So the skis burned." Orin looked down at her hands. "We were chosen to live because we remember. Our memories are not only in our minds, they are inside us." She touched her chest. "If we die, our species truly ends." The weight of that truth settled heavily in the room. Elias did not promise safety. Humans had learned not to lie about such things. Instead, he said something else. "As long as you're on this ship," he said, "no one decides your worth but you." That night, alarms whispered softly as the ship crossed into open space. Elias stayed awake, adjusting course. He avoided known lanes, choosing long, quiet paths instead. He did not notice the faint pulse of light far behind them. Not until it grew closer. A warning signal flared on the console, foreign energy signatures, distant but moving in their direction. The hunters were searching. Elias shut down external lights and reduced power. The ship became a shadow drifting among shadows. In the sleeping area, the women felt it too, a deep, old fear stirring in their bodies. Lyra opened her eyes, sensing something wrong. "They are near," she whispered. Elias checked the readings again. His ship was not built for combat. Running was the only option. He pushed the engines harder. The distance between them and death narrowed with every passing second. Behind them, unseen eyes followed the trail of the last survivors of a forgotten people. And ahead, a human choice, once made, could no longer be undone. The ship moved faster now, engines burning hotter than Elias liked. Warning lights blinked, asking for rest he could not give. Space stretched endlessly ahead, but behind them something followed, cold, patient, and very real. Elias studied the sensor screen. 3 signals, sleek, military-grade, not pirates, not traders. Hunters. He had seen ships like those before, long ago, when humans were still learning their place in the galaxy. They belonged to empires that did not chase for money. They chased to erase. In the quiet sleeping area, the 5 women felt the change. The ship's hum grew sharper, strained. Lyra rose slowly and walked toward the cockpit. She did not need machines to know what was coming. "They are closer," she said softly. Elias did not look away from the controls. "I know." Sail joined them, her glowing markings flickering like nervous light. "They will not stop," she said. They never do. Elias exhaled slowly. Fear was useless. Humans had survived worse odds with weaker ships. What mattered now was thinking differently. Ahead of them lay an unstable asteroid belt, dense, chaotic, avoided by most pilots. Rocks spun wildly, pulled by uneven gravity wells. One mistake meant death. Elias turned the ship toward it. Naira's eyes widened. No one flies through that. Elias allowed himself a tight smile. That's why it might work. The Wayfarer plunged into the field. Metal screamed as fragments scraped the hull. Elias' hands moved fast, guiding the ship between spinning stones and drifting ice. Alarms blared, but he ignored them. His focus narrowed to breath, movement, instinct. Behind them, the hunters followed. They fired. A blast struck the rear shields, shaking the ship violently. Orin was thrown to the floor. Vesh caught her just in time, gripping her arm with strength born from fear. Elias cursed under his breath. The ship could not take many more hits. Then Lyra did something unexpected. She stepped closer to the console, her hand hovering above the surface. "Your machines speak loudly," she said. "Let me listen." Before Elias could stop her, she placed her palm down. The ship responded. Lights shifted, power flowed differently. The navigation lines sharpened, clearer than before. Lyra gasped, not in pain but connection. "I can feel the movement," she said. "The stones, the gravity, they whisper where they will go." Elias trusted her. Together they moved the ship in ways no manual taught. Human reaction, alien perception, a shared rhythm. The Wayfarer slipped through paths that did not exist moments earlier. One hunter ship misjudged a turn. It collided with an asteroid, breaking apart in silent fire. The others slowed. But they did not retreat. A direct hit struck the engine housing. The ship lurched hard, systems failed, power dropped. Elias fought the controls, teeth clenched. "We're losing thrust." Sail's voice trembled. "If we stop, they will take us." Orin looked at the damaged panel, then at Elias. "There is something we can try," she said, "but it may harm the ship." "At this point," Elias replied, "everything harms the ship." Orin and Vesh moved together, opening a sealed compartment near the engine core. They connected organic energy nodes, devices grown, not built, into the human system. The ship screamed. Then it stabilized. Power surged briefly, uneven but strong enough. Elias used it. He forced the Wayfarer into a narrow gap between two massive rocks, then cut all active signals. The ship drifted, silent, hidden among debris. The remaining hunters passed by, unable to see them. Minutes felt like hours. No one breathed. Finally, the danger faded into distant emptiness. The ship was damaged, supplies were lower, escape was incomplete. But they were alive. Elias leaned back, exhaustion finally reaching him. Around him, 5 survivors of a dying people sat in shaken silence. They had faced death together. And something had changed. They were no longer just passengers and pilot. They were a crew. The ship floated in quiet darkness, hidden among cold stones and drifting dust. No engines, no lights, only the faint sound of damaged systems breathing slowly like a wounded animal refusing to die. Elias counted the seconds in his head. When nothing happened, he finally allowed himself to move. He stood carefully, feeling the ache in his bones, and checked the engine room. The damage was worse than he feared. The core was stable, but several systems were burned beyond simple repair. Without help, the ship could not make long jumps again. They were not trapped, but they were exposed. The 5 women waited together in the common area. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also something new, resolve shaped by shared danger. They had seen death close and lived. That changed a person. Elias spoke honestly. Humans learned early that truth, even painful truth, was better than false comfort. "We can move," he said. "Short distances only. If the hunters return in force, we won't outrun them." Lyra nodded slowly. "Then running is no longer our answer." Sail looked at the metal walls around them. "Your ship saved us," she said. "Now it is dying for us." Elias met her gaze. "Ships can be repaired, lives can't." Nyra stepped forward, her glow faint but steady. "There is something you should know about us," she said. She reached up and pressed her hand against her chest. The markings on her skin brightened, spreading outward like stars awakening. "Our bodies are not only flesh," she explained. "We carry living patterns. They can bond with technology." Oren continued. "We used it to grow our cities, to heal structures, to survive disasters." Elias understood immediately. "And it costs you," he said. Vesh looked away. "Yes." Silence filled the room again. Elias turned toward the small escape pod docked at the rear of the ship. It was intact, functional, meant for one. An idea formed, sharp, painful, unavoidable. He did not want to say it. But humans did not survive by avoiding hard choices. "I can use the pod's power core," Elias said. "Strip it, patch the ship enough to reach human space." Nyra's eyes widened. "In the pod?" "There won't be a pod," Elias replied quietly. Lyra understood before the others. Her voice lowered. "That leaves no second chance." Elias nodded. "I'll stay behind if needed. Draw attention, you take the ship." The words landed heavily. Sail shook her head. "You will not die for us." Elias looked at them. 5 lives that carried an entire lost species within them. "If one of us has to risk everything," he said, "it should be the one whose people still exist." Oren stepped closer. "You don't see yourself clearly," she said. "Your people exist because humans once made the same choice." The argument did not become loud. It became quiet. And quiet was more dangerous. In the end, they decided together. The pod would be dismantled. The ship would be rebuilt. And no one would be left behind. The process was slow and painful. The women connected their living energy to human systems carefully, precisely. The ship changed under their touch. Metal responded. Power flowed differently. It was no longer fully human-made. It became something new. Elias watched, feeling both awe and fear. When it was done, the Wayfarer felt heavier, stronger but changed. As the engines came back online, Lyra stumbled. Elias caught her before she fell. "This weakens you," he said. She smiled faintly. "Survival always costs something." The ship turned toward human space. But far away, a long-range scan picked up the energy shift. And someone noticed the Wayfarer moved again, slower than before but alive. Its engines no longer sounded purely mechanical. There was a deeper rhythm now, like a heartbeat beneath the metal. Elias felt it through the floor as he guided the ship toward the nearest human communication relay. The women rested in shifts. The bonding had taken strength from them. Their glowing markings were dim, their movements careful. Still, none complained. Humans respected that kind of silence. The relay appeared as a small silver ring floating near a gas giant, ancient and barely maintained. It was not meant for emergency calls, only basic navigation data. Elias powered it anyway. The transmission he sent was simple. Human origin, civilian ship, pursued by hostile forces, non-human refugees aboard. He did not ask for rescue. Humans rarely answered requests. But they remembered signals. Hours passed. Then the sensor alarm whispered again. Not hunters. Multiple ships, human-made, old designs, different classes approaching from scattered directions. Freighters, patrol craft, even a medical vessel running on outdated engines. They came without orders. The first voice to break through the static was calm and human. "This is the cargo hauler Stone River. We see you. You're not alone." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Relief hit him harder than fear ever had. The women gathered behind him, watching human ships form a loose protective circle. They did not understand the words fully, but they understood the meaning. Help had come, but peace did not last. A cold presence entered the system moments later. The hunters arrived in force, larger ships this time, weapons charged, confident. They had followed the energy trail. They always did. The human ships did not retreat. They positioned themselves between the hunters and the wayfarer, without hesitation. "This is human-controlled space," one human captain transmitted. "You have no claim here." The reply was sharp and without emotion. "Those aboard are property of our empire." Silence followed. Then a human voice answered, steady and clear. "Humans don't recognize ownership of people." The battle began. It was not beautiful. It was loud, violent, and desperate. Human ships were older, less advanced, but they fought differently. They fought to protect, not to conquer. Elias kept the wayfarer moving, dodging debris while human ships traded fire. One freighter took a hit meant for them, its hull tearing open as it drifted away burning. Sail cried out. Elias watched the destruction, heart heavy. Humans always paid a price. Then something unexpected happened. The wayfarer reacted on its own. The bonded systems pulsed, sending out a wave of interference. Hunter targeting systems failed for seconds that felt like mercy itself. Human gunners used that moment. 2 hunter ships were disabled, another retreated. The rest withdrew, calculating loss against gain. They chose survival. The battlefield fell quiet, broken only by damaged ships and drifting fire. Human rescue vessels moved in. When the wayfarer docked with the largest human cruiser, Elias finally stood. His legs trembled. He was no hero, just a man who stopped. Medical teams arrived, humans and aliens working side by side. Lyra reached out and touched the wall of the human ship, feeling its warmth. "They came for us," she whispered. Elias shook his head gently. "They came because you were with a human." She looked at him then, eyes filled with something deep and heavy. "Then your kind is rare," she said. Elias looked around at the battered human fleet, ships that answered a call no one ordered them to hear. "No," he replied quietly, "we're just stubborn." And for the first time since the station fell, the women allowed themselves to believe they might truly survive. Safety felt strange. The human station orbited a blue-white star, wide and open, filled with steady lights and quiet movement. It was not a military base, not a prison, and not a palace. It was a place where ships stopped to rest, repair, and breathe. For the first time in many cycles, no one was chasing the wayfarer. The women noticed that first. Lyra stood near the wide viewport, watching human workers move calmly outside and repair suits. No fear, no urgency, just routine life continuing. "Nothing is burning," she said softly. "It feels unreal." Elias was nearby, speaking with station officials. There were forms, questions, scans, and careful looks. Humans were welcoming but cautious. The galaxy had taught them to be careful. The word asylum was spoken. That word carried weight. Medical checks followed. The women were guided gently through clean white rooms. Human doctors worked slowly, learning as they went. The bonding they had done with the ship had left marks, not wounds, but deep fatigue. Sail struggled to stand at one point. Elias stepped forward without thinking, steadying her. She did not pull away. "You stayed," she said quietly, "even when running was easier." Elias shrugged. Staying is a human habit. Recovery took time. During those days, the women learned what humans were like when they were not fighting. Loud laughter in shared halls, arguments over small things, music played badly but with joy, children running between legs, fearless. Naira watched them often. "Your people do not hide emotion," she observed. Elias smiled faintly. We tried once, it didn't work. The future, however, waited. Human representatives met with the women. Translators struggled but improved. Questions were asked, not about obedience or usefulness, but about needs. "What do you want?" one human asked. The women were silent. No one had asked them that since before their world burned. Orin finally answered, "We want to exist without fear." Humans understood that answer well. A proposal was made. A distant colony world, lightly populated, rich in open land and quiet skies. The women could settle there, build, teach. Remember, human protection would be offered, not ownership, not control. Joyce. The word felt heavy and beautiful. That night Elias walked alone through the station corridor. He had delivered his cargo, saved lives, finished his role. Or so he thought. Lyra found him near the docking ring. "You will leave," she said, not accusing, just stating truth. "I'm a courier," Elias replied. "I move on." She studied him. Our people once believed survival meant traveling forever. We learned too late that roots matter. Elias looked back at the wayfarer, still docked, still changed. "You don't need me," he said. Lyra shook her head gently. "We do not need you, we choose you." The choice stunned him more than danger ever had. When the decision was announced, the women accepted the colony offer. Papers were signed. Protections promised. The galaxy slowly, officially acknowledged that their species still lived. Cheers were quiet but real. As preparations began, Elias stood with them on the viewing deck, watching stars drift past. "I can help you settle," he said at last, "just for a while." Sale smiled. That is how a while always begins. For the first time, Elias did not correct her. Because for the first time, he was not running toward the next job. He was staying. The new world did not shine like a jewel. Its skies were wide and pale, its land rough and unfinished. Winds moved freely across open plains, carrying dust and the promise of change. To many species, it would have seemed empty. To the 5 women, it felt like breath after drowning. Human ships escorted them down through the atmosphere, slow and careful. Elias watched from the cockpit of the wayfarer as the surface grew closer. He felt no fear this time. Only weight, the kind that came with responsibility freely chosen. When they landed, there were no grand buildings waiting. Only human settlers, a few simple structures and tools laid out in the open. People waved. Some smiled nervously. Some stared with curiosity. No one raised a weapon. Lyra stepped onto the soil first. She knelt, pressing her hand into the ground. The markings on her skin brightened, reacting to unfamiliar life beneath the surface. "This land listens," she whispered. The others followed. Sale laughed softly as the wind pulled at her hair. Nyra closed her eyes, letting sunlight warm her face. Vesh and Orin stood side by side, shoulders touching, steady. They were no longer running. Days turned into weeks. The women worked alongside humans. They helped shape shelters that grew stronger over time. They taught humans how to weave living energy into structures, not to control them, but to support them. Humans shared their tools, their stubborn methods, their jokes. Trust did not arrive suddenly. It grew. At night, stories were told around open fires. Human children listened as the women spoke of oceans that glowed and forests that sang. The past was no longer a wound. It was a gift being passed forward. Elias watched all of it quietly. His ship remained nearby, repaired but changed forever. So was he. One evening, a message arrived from deep space. A small species, hunted. Another system falling silent. The galaxy did not stop being cruel just because one story ended well. Elias read the report and felt the familiar pull. The urge to leave, to help, to run toward danger again. Lyra noticed. "You are thinking of going," she said. "Yes," Elias admitted. "Someone else will need help." She nodded. Then you will go. He looked at her surprised. But she continued, you will return. The words settled into him, deep and firm. The next morning, Elias prepared the wayfarer. The women stood beside the ship. There were no tears, no fear, only understanding. You taught us something, Sale said. That survival is not only about escaping death. Naira added, it is about choosing life again and again. Elias placed his hand against the hull of the ship. You taught me that staying can be braver than leaving. When the wayfarer lifted into the sky, 5 figures watched until it became a star among stars. Years later, the story spread, not as a legend of weapons or conquest, but as a reminder. When the galaxy spoke of humans, it did not talk about their ships or strength. It spoke of what they did when faced with the desperate. Humans did not ask what someone could offer. They asked one question instead. Will you come with us? And because of that question, 5 voices that should have been lost forever were still singing beneath an open sky. Still alive. Still remembered.